Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Chatter, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you enjoyed your vacation off. I'm actually quite disappointed that nobody realized I didn't do a show last week. Shows how much you watchers are paying attention. Anyways, to start off today's show, we have a list of shows that are likely to be canceled after their respective seasons. If you like any of these shows, you may be disappointed in the coming weeks because they are at risk for being canceled. The first one is Marry Me from NBC. This quirky show from NBC in which a couple who finally gets engaged after 6 years is having troubles getting to the altar. This show is falling on its last legs and will likely be canceled along with NBC's long list of already canceled shows for this season. Also, NBC is quite popular in this actual list. Next for NBC is About a Boy. It's actually been formally canceled in a few entertainment circles, but this particular source still has it listed as in jeopardy. This show is about a bachelor who starts bonding with the son of a single mom who recently moved in next door. It is based on a novel of the same name and was also made a movie in 2002. My personal opinion is that this novel was overplayed, making people less interested. NBC also has State of Affairs. This stars Katherine Heigl of ER Grey's Anatomy fame as a CIA agent. Despite hiring a great actress as the lead, this show just did not survive well in numbers, and is likely to be canceled by the spring semester of shows. Maybe networks should try their luck in genres other than politics and crime, and they might survive a little easier. Backstrom on Fox is likely to be canceled by the May season, the only of Fox's new shows to not be doing well. This is a comedic take on politics and crime solving, which again falls into the earlier comment I made, although kudos to them for thinking outside the box. It was supposed to be a semi-spin-off of Monk, which did very well. Heart of Dixie, this is a shocker, from CW56. This show has run its course on the network, surviving for a few seasons. It is the only show on the network who recently won awards for its quirky Jane the Virgin series that has not been renewed, a sure sign this late in the season that it probably won't. CBS, we're switching gears to CBS now for Stalker. Stalker has not had a good start at all. It falls into the political crime area once again, and only received a 17 in the premiere ratings for its first episode. The chances of that low of a rating being being renewed is almost zero. CSI. Yes, you heard me correctly. The longest running crime series may be coming to an end. Of course, they've said that every year for a while now, and a renewal comes at the last second, but even if it is canceled, the series lived very long and also survived many spin-offs, which the show is now saying is a good consolation if it is canceled. CSI has spun into many series, some that we still see today, CSI New York, CSI Miami, and the new CSI Cyber, which seems to be drawing a decent crowd. Also for CBS, Battle Creek. Battle Creek is not responding well with watchers. Another crime attempt, it follows two FBI partners as they try to clean the streets of a town going through an economical depression. Now on to ABC. Gallivant. This should not come as a shock, since it was originally written as a simple miniseries to fill space between seasons. However, despite a lot of people enjoying the comical series, ABC does not seem to be in any hurry to write a second season. Resurrection. This also does not come as a shock to many people, as many fans of the first season claim the second season shied away from its original plot, making it more of a supernatural experience instead of the originally portrayed loving, emotional, poignant reunion of family members. Cristela. Okay, I'll take the bite. This one does seem a bit shocking, especially if you pop on to Twitter on Friday nights at 8:30 Eastern or 7:30 Pacific. This show seems to have a great following, although I admit I have stopped watching the past few weeks only because I've been busy doing other things and forget to turn it on. Despite emotion-packed episodes, the show does not seem to be bringing in ratings, and is also in competition with Fresh Off the Boat, a new series on ABC of a similar design. Also for ABC, Forever is Not So Forever. This show, like an earlier mention, has been canceled already according to other sources, but this source specifically still lists it on the critical list. The show is about a doctor who is deemed immoral, or unable to die, and uses his extremely long life to solve murders, as he also tries to solve his own life mystery of how he became the way he is. The show hasn't been received well by critics and also does not seem to hold the interest of any watchers. Now for what everyone's been waiting for, the Dancing with the Stars opening night of season 20. As usual, opening night of Dancing with the Stars was a hit. It featured both good and bad dancers, inspirational stories, and a few tears thrown in there for good measure. Kicking off the evening was the competition's youngest, Willow Shields, of Hunger Game fame, and her partner Mark, dancing a cha-cha. Overall, it was a good dance, considering she went first and is only 14. Their score was a 25. All scores, again, this season are out of 40. So keep that in mind when you hear other scores. Next was Shark Tanker Robert and his partner Kim, who returned all the way from Dancing with the Stars Australia, specifically for this special season. They also danced a cha-cha. It was very interesting. Robert clearly had a blast, but if he wants to have a blast and win the special Golden Mirror Ball, he needs to work on paying attention and actually dancing. Their score was a 28. Riker Lynch from the group R5 and his partner Allison had a jive. Allison finally has a partner that can combine traditional dance styles with modern dance, something which makes her kind of an outsider compared to the rest of the group. In this case, it worked well, but with something as traditional as the jive, she might want to tone it down in the future. Score 31. Super Bowl model Charlotte and her partner Keo, which was eliminated first last season, had a jive. Charlotte has potential, but Keo needs to stop staring at her boobs and focus on her feet, and teaching her how to dance. The dance itself is much slower than normal for a jive, and Charlotte was off in a few spots. Their score was a 22, one of the night's lowest. Next up, Grammy diva Patti LaBelle and her partner Artem had the elegant foxtrot dance to one of her own songs, Lady Marmalade. Great job considering she is 70, and it made the judges emotional to see her having so much fun. They earned a 25. Bachelor Chris Soules and his partner Whitney, no, not the one he's engaged to, a totally different Whitney, had the jive as well, to the song Footloose. They took it out to the farming country and even danced part of it in the back of a pickup truck. It was really neat and overall a good jive. Their score, 26. Gay National Football League player Michael Sam and his partner Peta danced the cha-cha. Michael has great movement and has definite potential, something Peta hasn't had in a dancer in a few seasons. He made very few mistakes. Their score was a 26. Olympian Nastia and Derek had the foxtrot to New York, New York. How convenient, considering Nastia is attending school at NYU and Derek is dancing with the Rockettes this season as well. It was a great combination of traditional foxtrot and a modern flair. Nastia has great lines and extensions in her arms. However, Carrie Ann pointed out a lift, which is not allowed in the traditional foxtrot. Score is 26. Which might just be Derek's lowest score ever. Let's hope it stays that way and gives somebody else a turn to win. LMFAO singer Redfoo and his partner Emma had the cha-cha. My prediction is that Charlotte and Keo may get a reprieve next week due to Redfoo being eliminated. His first dance was horrible, and his footwork was really sporadic. Their score was 22. War veteran and double amputee Noah Galloway and his partner Shauna brought the most tears of the evening when they danced a brilliant choreographed cha-cha. The dance itself seemed a bit shorter than the others, probably due to his disability, but it was very inspiring. He got a standing ovation at the end, My one worry with Noah is that people will vote him through each week out of his injury and not his dancing, which he said he did not want. I saw this happen with last season with Amy Purdy. I saw this happen a few seasons ago with J.R. Martinez, the man who had no face due to being a war veteran. People seem to go, oh, he's a war veteran, I have to vote for him because I'm American, instead of voting for him out of his dancing, which is actually what Noah himself said in his bonus package that they see before they dance. He said he doesn't want people to vote for him because he's missing a left leg and a left arm, or that he did it because he was hit by whatever happened in Iraq. He doesn't want people to do that because of his injury. He wants people to vote for him and think he's inspiring because of what he's doing on the dance floor. So if you're thinking of voting for Noah just because of his injury, please think again. He lost, like I said, he lost both of his left leg and his arm while fighting in the Iraqi war. This is going to prove challenging, especially for the slow dances, because when you're in hold for the slow dances, you usually have one arm on the person's back and another up by their neck or their head, depending on how short you are. But he's missing an arm. So holding on to his partner is going to be very hard, especially since it's his left arm, which in ballroom dancing, your left side of your body is very important, especially if you're a male. Men lead with their left everything. They lead with their left foot. They lead with their left arm. It's going to be interesting to see how Sharna takes this challenge and how far Noah actually goes. Their score this week was a 26. Rant over, time for the next star. Suzanne Summers and her partner Tony did a Thigh Master themed first dance. Those of you who remember Suzanne Summers remember that the Thigh Master was a product she was famous for advertising in the 1990s. Their dance was a cha-cha. She lost footing and started on the wrong foot in the middle of the dance, but overall it was a great first shot. Score 25. Ending out the night was singer-actress Rumor Willis, Bruce Willis and Demi Moore's daughter, and her partner Val. They had a foxtrot, and as the song says, Rumor definitely has it. Beautiful, elegant, priceless, end of discussion. Highest score of the night. This might just be Val's lucky season. Score 32. Next week, one couple is eliminated at the end of the evening, and the theme is My Jam Monday, where all of the stars pick their favorite song to jam out to. My favorite thing so far about this season, along with the fact that there's a wide variety of dancers and abilities, is that they went back to their one night foundation of Monday nights. They didn't do Monday, Tuesday, and I like it better that way because the person who's getting eliminated next Monday still gets to dance because they eliminate at the end of the show. So that way, even though it's their last dance on the competition, at least they got to dance a second dance, or a third dance, or a fourth dance, etc., etc. Whereas when it used to be 2 nights, they would dance on Monday, get eliminated on Tuesday, and that would be it. They'd be done after one chai. Whereas, even though they won't get the chance to redeem themselves, so to speak, they still get to dance again. A new dance, learn something new until, they're kicked off at the end of the show. But I like it better with the one night. It's more fun, and it gives them a second chance to dance. Anywho, on to cold case section. We're up in the wonderful state of Maine, in the town of Lisbon Falls. Shirley Ray Baldwin was last seen alive on April 4th of 1976 at 2:30 a.m., lying on the floor of her kitchen. Baldwin was found at 9 o'clock in the morning on April 4th of 1976, still lying on the floor. Investigation revealed that an argument was heard in the victim's apartment by neighbors in the apartment complex. The case remains open. If you know anything about this, and you live in state, you can call 1-800-228-0857, or if you're out of state, please call 207-657-3030. Now on to Review Corner. No movies, because I was supposed to watch the ending of The Haunting of Lily House, but I was tired, so I went to sleep instead. But I do have a TV show and a book for you. TV show Born in the Wild. As promised, although a little late, I would watch and review Born in the Wild, which airs Tuesday nights on Lifetime. I watched it once, and I will never watch it again. And that is rare for me because those of you that know me know I'm a birth show junkie. I love anything to do with birth shows. Birth story, baby story, Born in the Wild, not so much. But you get the gist. I think if they had chosen a different couple to air first, I might have stayed longer. But this Alaska couple just killed it totally. They were 6 hours away from the closest medical facility when the show, when it was being hit with controversy, said that every couple on the show was within 20 minutes of a health facility. So they lied, basically. This woman was 6 hours away. They planned to give birth in the water at the beach, but a rainstorm swept through. They were dealing with bears and mosquitoes while she was giving birth, and the baby was posterior, which can be dangerous. Thankfully, everything worked out, but I feel that would have made a better season or series, hopefully, finale episode than an opener, because from what I've heard, the following episodes have not been as dramatic. So I feel like I'm missing out because the first episode literally killed it for me. She was so dramatic and wailing and crying and screaming, and she goes, that's the way I cope with contractions. And it's like, well, give her a muzzle, because I've seen other people that cope with contractions by screaming, but she took it to the next level. Book reviews. It started with a house. This is my first romance that I've read cover to cover, and I actually enjoyed it. It had just enough of a raunchy side that left you wishing you had a boyfriend or girlfriend at that moment, but it wasn't all 50 Shades of Grey styled. It featured a widowed real estate agent, young, who sells a house to a recent widower, also young, who in a heat of passion falls for the real estate agent and things get out of hand. Yep, you guessed it, she became pregnant. While she never thought of an abortion as an option, she was very hard to get for a while in light of the situation, and wanted to stay away from her new boyfriend, obviously. But in the end, they ended up married, and she gave birth to a son. It's a really neat story, and it all started with a house, hence the title. Very clever on the author's part. Reflection Corner. Our first reading is from Ezekiel 47, verses 1 through 9 and 12. I always used to get this reading when I went to Mass, daily Mass, and he'd always pick me to read it. It's so boring at the beginning. Anywho, then he brought me back to the entrance of the temple, and I saw water flowing out from beneath the threshold of the temple toward the east, for the facade of the temple was toward the east. The water flowed down from the southern side of the temple, south of the altar. He led me outside by the north gate and around to the outer gate facing the east, where I saw water trickling from the southern side. I hope you don't have to pee, because this story will make you have to pee. Then, when he had walked off to the east with a measuring cord in his hand, he measured off 1,000 cubits and had me wade through the water, which was ankle deep. He measured off another 1,000 and once more had made me wade through the water, which was now knee deep. Again, he measured off 1,000 and had me wade. The water was up to my waist. Once more he measured off 1,000, but there was now a river through which I could not wade. For the water had risen so high and had become a river that could not be crossed except by swimming. He asked me, "Have you seen this, Son of Man?" Then he brought me to the bank of the river, where he had me sit. Along the bank of the river I saw very many trees on both sides. He said to me, "This water flows into the eastern district, down upon the Arabah, and empties into the sea, the salt waters, which it makes fresh. Wherever the river flows, every sort of living creature that can multiply shall live. And there shall be abundant fish, for wherever this water comes, the sea shall be made fresh. Along both banks of the river, fruit shall not fade, or their fruit fail. Every month they shall bear fresh fruit, for they shall be watered by the flow from the sanctuary. Their fruit shall serve for food, and their leaves for medicine." For those of you that are Bible thumpers and are going to say to me, that was inappropriate to mention the P line because that's not in the Bible, I'm sorry. I was supposed to mention that at the beginning, but I forgot, and it just came to me as I was reading through the waters. Anyway, Psalm 46, verses 2 to 3, 5 to 6, and 8 to 9. God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in distress. Thus we do not fear, though earth be shaken and mountains quake to the depths of the sea. Streams of the river gladden the city of God. the holy dwelling of the Most High. God is in its midst, it shall not be shaken. God will help it at the break of day. The Lord of hosts is with us. Our stronghold is the God of Jacob. Come and see the works of the Lord, who has done fearsome deeds on the earth. And our gospel message is John 5, verses 1 through 16. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem at the sheep gate a pool called in Hebrew Bethesda, with 5 porticos. In these lay a large number of ill, blind, lame, and crippled. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been ill for such a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I am on my way, someone else gets down there before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your mat, and walk." Immediately the man became well, took up his mat, and walked. Now that day was a Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who was cured, "It is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to carry your mat." He answered them, "The man who made me well told me, 'Take up your mat and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who told you, 'Take it up and walk'?" The man who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped away, since there was a crowd there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple area and said to him, "Look, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may happen to you." The man went and told the Jews that Jesus was the one who had made him well. Therefore the Jews began to persecute Jesus because he did this on a Sabbath. For the saints of the day, now we all know the most popular saint for March 17th is St. Patrick. He is the last saint we will talk about. The first is a saint that I will need to investigate further, and those of you who know me well enough will know why when you hear a certain part of this discussion. St. Gertrude of Nibelles. Gertrude is the patron saint of gardeners, travelers, and pilgrims. Gertrude was born around 626 in Brabant, which is now part of Belgium and the Netherlands. Her father, Pepin I, was a duke in the region and assisted several kings. Both he and his wife, Etta, were dedicated to the church, and at an early age, Gertrude showed the same religious commitment. When Gertrude was 10, a local noble wanted her to marry his son. Gertrude said she would never marry, since she planned to devote her life to Christ. When Pepin died in 640, Etta founded a monastery in Nivelles, and Gertrude joined her in monastic life. Etta served as abbess for 7 years, then turned the leadership over to Gertrude, who won the respect of her nuns and impressed visitors in Nivelles with her kindness. 2 of Gertrude's visitors were brothers named Folion and Eultan. They were Irish monks who later achieved sainthood. Gertrude and Etta gave the monks land in nearby Folly, where the brothers built a monastery. The 2 monks remained close to Gertrude, and Folion stayed at Nivelles to instruct the nuns there. In 652, Etta died, and Gertrude began to spend more time in solitude, praying and studying the Bible. She also used her inheritance to build churches, monasteries, and hospices. In 659, as Gertrude's health suffered, she asked Eultan what was in store for her. He told her that she would die the next day on March 17th during Mass. And she did. Although almost immediately, Gertrude was venerated as a saint. Years later, nuns from Nivelles helped Gertrude's sister Bega start a monastery in Ardenne. Bega also went on to become a saint. Our next saint is Saint Gabriel Lalement. Gabriel was one of the North American martyrs. As a young man of 22, Gabriel joined the Society of Jesus, a Jesuit community, just as his 2 uncles had done before him. For years, he longed to follow them to New France and Canada and become a black robe missionary to Native Americans. After ordination, however, his frail physical condition convinced the Jesuits to keep him in France, where he supervised studies at Bourges. Gabriel persisted, though, and finally his superiors changed their minds. In 646, he joined his uncle in Quebec. But Gabriel was not satisfied. He pleaded for a more demanding mission among the Native Americans, believing that Jesus had also suffered and died for them. After 2 years, his uncle allowed him to travel with Jean de Brebeuf to Huronia, located near the Georgian Bay. Life in the wilderness was dangerous. The Iroquois people were at war with the Hurons. Gabriel arrived at the mission in January of 1649. He was only 38 years old and brimming with enthusiasm for his new work. On March 15th, the Iroquois attacked the Huron settlement. Although the 2 priests could have escaped, they stayed to protect the frightened women and children, while the Huron men tried to defend their village. But the Iroquois outnumbered them. They set fire to the village, killing nearly all of the inhabitants. Father Brebeuf and Gabriel were captured and tortured to death. Gabriel's only cry was, "Jesus, have mercy on us." Both joined the growing list of martyrs who died while bringing Christianity to the New World. Last but not least is our number 1 saint of the day, St. Patrick. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland. Although he is the patron saint of Ireland, Patrick was not a native of that country. He was born in Scotland in 385. When he was just 14, he was captured and taken to Ireland, where he was enslaved. During this time of trial, he turned to God for comfort and strength. He would pray each morning, and he felt no sadness. After Patrick had been in Ireland for 6 years, God came to him in a dream and told him to go home. Patrick escaped and was reunited with his family, but he still heard the Irish calling to him in dreams. Patrick entered the priesthood and eventually became a bishop. After many years of doing great work in Rome, Patrick was sent to Ireland to spread the message of the gospel because he was able to speak Celtic, also known as Gaelic, and so was able to communicate with the Irish. Patrick's mission wasn't an easy one. Druidism, an ancient Celtic religion, was widely practiced in Ireland, and many Druids would rather have killed Patrick than convert. He and his followers were imprisoned and sentenced to death many times. But Patrick's faith in God was strong, and he knew he could keep going, spreading God's name everywhere with confidence and without fear. Patrick preached all over Ireland, using a shamrock to explain the Trinity and converting thousands with his quiet, unassuming manner and gentle way of speaking. As a man of God, Patrick was known for his humility and disinterest in material wealth. He wouldn't accept gifts from admirers, and often retreated in quiet prayer. By the time he died in 461, Patrick had converted virtually all of Ireland to Christianity, and he is a reminder that God speaks to us through his servants. Our closing prayer is from St. Patrick Lorica. I bind to myself God's power to guide me, God's might to uphold me, God's wisdom to teach me, God's eye to watch over me, God's ear to hear me, God's work to give me speech, God's hand to guide me, God's way to lie before me, God's shield to shelter me, God's host to secure me, against the snares of demons, against the seductions of vices, against the lust of nature, against everyone who meditates injury to me, whether far or near, few or many. And this week's fan of the week is Maurice Isabel. This is from 2 weeks ago. The correct answer was John Alstair. And I will see you all next week. Happy St. Patrick's Day.